Hey guys, so how was your trading week? I hope you had a good week. And it wasn't really good for me because I took losses on US30 and I took a loss on NAS100. But this coming week, we're coming back strong. We're coming back stronger than before. So there's a lot that happened on Friday. You had this massive moves that came in. And so for us to capitalize on this for the coming week, we need to wait for prices to pull back to certain areas of interest for us to actually go in. So let's look at the DXY real quick. So looking at the DXY, we had prices moving to the upside, and we've been looking at this for a very long time. When you put this trend line which we have here, it tells you that okay, so you had prices moving to the upside, but then you had this violation. So you had prices break out of this uptrend, and now you can see price is actually trading outside the trend line. Another important thing about this current price action is we have this level of 104, and I've been looking at this area of 104 like the past couple of days, and I'm paying attention to 104. The reason I'm paying attention to 104 is if price continues to trade below this point, then we might see prices drop lower. But if prices eventually come back above 104, we might see prices go to the upside. Now, when you look at price in terms of just price action, so when you have a move to the upside like this, and eventually you have a break, so you have prices moving up and then you have a violation. Now, when a violation happens, it's difficult for you to see prices just drop continuously to the downside. I still want to see the DXY move to the upside before you get the drop to the downside. So you had from I think December 28th. So from December 28th, like right here, when the DXY started moving to the upside. So the DXY started moving to the upside from December 28th. And this was say February 13th, then we had the drop. Now when you compare this movement like this to this violation, it's gonna take time for the DXY to drop if it has to. So you need prices to move again to the upside. You need buyers to come in, then the sellers can drop the market again to the downside, like that huge drop on the DXY. So for my analysis for next week, I still have a bullish bias on the DXY. And if we move to lower time frames, you actually see when we break down this piece of price action on lower time frames, you understand exactly what's happening. So when price moves to the upside and you get the violation, expect a movement to the upside before price dropping again to the downside. So if we move say to the 8-hour time frame, we need to pay attention to this piece of price action. So price coming down, there is that difficulty to continue to the downside. So because we have this difficulty for price to continue to the downside, it's very likely for us to see prices pulled back to the upside before getting the drop on the DXY. When we move to the 4-hour time frame, what we realize is we had prices putting in lows and highs, which is just a characteristic downtrend. When you zoom in on this, you realize this downtrend as well. We looked at this last week, so we had this downtrend with prices moving to the downside. Then we had prices trading outside, and that was a concern for me. So if price is moving to the downside, why did we get this move outside and then we get price trading outside? That's a major concern for me. And because of that movement, what we see is price is now making highs and highs like this. So it's making subsequent highs. Now when you put another trend line say here, and every other person might say, oh, the DXY is probably dropping because of what happened on Friday and stuff like that. But when you look at it from a technical perspective, just looking at price action, what the DXY is actually doing, it's giving you at this point, the DXY is just moving to the upside. So it's giving you highs and lows, highs and lows, highs. It's giving you a low right now. So it's logical that you see the DXY trade again to the upside to take out these highs. And that's what I'm looking for, say Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, like the coming week. I expect the DXY to go again to the upside. That's the first possibility for me, and this is the primary focus for me on the DXY, to see these prices go to the upside. Now, this is just a probability, so it's also possible that the DXY might not move to the upside. And if I'm wrong with this analysis, say the DXY doesn't move to the upside to take out these highs, then we might see something like this. So the DXY could drop again to the downside. If this happens, it's very okay, because we've had these prices moving to the upside, and if we get a breach of it to the downside, now we know the DXY probably wants to continue dropping to the downside. From this point, again, we have this psychological number right here. If I get a drop to the downside, I'm not really surprised. Then my bias will change from a bullish bias to a bearish bias, and then I'll wait for prices to pull back up to test this psychological number. Then we'll look for the selling opportunities. So my primary focus on the DXY for next week is to see prices respect this area right here and move to the upside to take out these highs, and not just these highs, but progressively say move higher. I'm looking at areas like this, or even test 105 before we get a massive move again from the DXY dropping to the downside. So I'm still very, very bullish on the DXY. I'm very bullish on the DXY. And if this doesn't work, if I'm wrong, then the DXY just violates this area. I'll wait for the pullback to say 104, and then we'll look for selling opportunities again on the DXY. With this analysis on the DXY, now we can look at other currency pairs, because with what's happening on the DXY, it gives me opportunities on, say, GU. I have opportunities on GU, I have opportunities on US30, I have opportunities lining up already on gold as well. So we'll take a moment and look at those other pairs just to see what's happening on them as well. So let's have a look at gold. So with gold, it's pretty easy. So if you look from here, we had this massive move to the upside. When you put your trend line, it gives you a better understanding as to what gold is trying to do. So we had this move to the upside, and we had a violation, and then we had prices come back up. We had the sells. Now I'm more interested with the recent price action on gold, which is this area right here. So as price rallies to the upside, I'm watching this area. So the reaction at this point is very important for me, because if gold finds it difficult to go past this point, then we might see a move to the downside. But this move to the downside will probably come in the form of, say, a move like this, and then a move back up, then you get a move to the downside. But the reason I'm very interested on gold is because of what is happening on the DXY. My primary focus on the DXY is to see prices move to the upside. And if these prices move to the upside as anticipated, then gold is a pair I'm actually looking for sells on. So I want to see something like this, and then a break, and then the move to the downside. So it's not a lot you can do on gold, but we can look at gold, say, we can look at it from a lower time frame as well, just to give you a better perspective as to what's happening. So on the 4-hour time frame, if gold finds it difficult to go past this point, which is very likely to happen, you can add, say, a trend line here. For me to get any sells, to take any short positions on gold, it's very important we wait for prices to break out of this trend line, give us a pullback like this, and then we look for those opportunities to sell. So it's a lot that is still going to happen on gold. I don't see, again, gold might go to areas like this, but I'm not interested in these buys. I'm very much interested in the sells. So the buys might come in, but I'm not really interested in the buys. I'm more focused on these sells because of what the DXY might be doing. So I'm very much interested in the sells as compared to the buys. Again, I have a psychological number here, and the distance from here is not a good distance for me to play with. So I'll wait for gold. I'm looking for selling opportunities on gold for this coming week, but I know it's going to take time because we need to see something like this and then this drop. So I'm going to be patient. So there's nothing I can do as of now. There's no position I can take on gold. I'll just stand aside and wait for prices to play out. When the structure forms and then everything is aligning properly, I'll take this sells on gold, and I'm really looking out for gold. Alright, so let's have a quick look at GU. GU, I'm more interested with the buys on GU, and the reason is simple. So we had prices move to the upside. So we had this pair say last week, but we didn't take any trade on this pair last week. We had prices move to the upside. We had a break to the downside, or a breach or a violation, and we've had prices rejecting around this area for so long. And yes, we had prices move to the downside, but you see it pushed back up to 1.26 flat. So again, we still have prices reacting from this point. And if you move to lower time frames, so have this in mind. With GU, I'll be more focused on the buys if the DXY has a move like this, or if the DXY just breaks to the downside. So if this violation happens and we get a DXY like this, then I'll be very much interested with this buying opportunity on GU. So on lower time frames, let's say you step down to the 4-hour time frame. So you had this move to the upside, you had prices making highs and lows, and then we had a breach to the downside. Now price is making lows and giving you this downward move. That's an illusion that is a downtrend that is playing out, but we still have a rejection or a reaction at 1.26000. So if you step down to the hourly time frame, it becomes clearer, because on the hourly time frame you see something different happening on the hourly time frame. So you have prices putting in a structure like this. Yes, we had this sales coming in, but it's really a point of concern for me because we had prices move out and back in, we had prices move out, back in, and right now we have this pop again to the outside. So if these prices continue to trade outside this trend line, then I'm looking for opportunities to go to the upside. And again, that has to align with the DXY. So if the DXY eventually breaks to the downside, I'm looking for those buying opportunities on GU. Alright, so let's look at US30 real quick. So with US30, I took a loss on US30. I'll look on the lower time frame and show you, but I had a loss on this pair. When you look at the recent price action, so we're looking at this piece of information right here. We have prices moving to the upside. And what's interesting is if you put your trend line, everything looks okay, like the trend line has not been violated. So it's very difficult for you to take sales on US30 right now. But have this in mind, you have the DXY aligning like this. If the DXY continues to move to the upside, which is what I'm looking out for the coming week, there might be an opportunity for us to take some sales on US30. So I'm looking at this area right here. We have a trend line, but if the DXY continues to move to the upside, it's very likely that you see the DXY drop, give you a pullback, and then we can get something like this. So let's look, say, on lower time frames just to see what's happening. Now, when you compare the movement that's happening on, say, the 4-hour time frame, you have this piece of information right here. So you had prices pop out, you had a massive move to the upside. You had prices drop, you had this move, a test of this area, then a massive move to the upside. Now I want you to pay close attention to what US30 does, say on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. So we've had this move to this area, but price is actually struggling to make new highs or to even test areas like this. So if US30 continues to struggle, if it struggles to make highs above, say beyond this point, and let's say it gets a test of this area and it's still difficult for it to make highs, once we get that break or that violation on US30, I'm just waiting for buyers to come in again, then I'll look for those selling opportunities and manage it accordingly, depending on areas, depending on what price is showing you at areas like this, and like this. So look at the DXY. If the DXY does this move to the upside, I want you to pay attention to what happens on US30. Once you see that there is some difficulty for US30 to go to the upside or to break these highs, wait for prices to break lower, wait for the buyers to come in, then you look for those selling opportunities again. And that's it. It's very simple for US30. Alright, so let's have a quick look at NAS100. So NAS100 and the S&P500, they have a similar move that's happening right now. And if you understand what's happening on NAS, it's almost like a replica on the S&P500. So still on the daily time frame, we had this trend. So we had this uptrend, and we had prices respecting this uptrend. Then we had a move to the downside, and now we have prices moving to the upside. Now, looking at the DXY again, with NAS100 and the S&P500, I'll be more focused on, say, the second option. So if the DXY drops like so, and we get these pullbacks and then we get further drops to the downside, then I'll pay attention to pairs like NAS100 and then the S&P500, because these ones still have a potential to move to the upside. If you look at the S&P500 as well, it has the potential. It has the potential to move to areas like this. So there's still enough room for it to happen. But when you look at NAS100, for example, so you look at NAS100 real quick. Yes, we had this uptrend that got violated and everything, but then price is still moving to the upside. So if price is still moving to the upside, when you look on lower time frame, say the 8-hour time frame and the 4-hour time frame, you have a new trend that is building. And if the DXY drops to the downside like so, you watch NAS100 and you might get, say, prices pulling back to areas like this, which lines up perfectly with, say, this psychological number here at 18,000, and you could probably see prices rally all the way to the upside. So it's very, very important. It's very important you watch the DXY, and if you see these prices on the DXY drop, watch NAS100, because you could see a pullback to areas like this and then a massive move to the upside. And it's the same thing with the S&P500. There's not a lot you can do as of now, so just wait for prices to, say, pull back to areas like this, and then you have those buying opportunities. However, if this continues moving to the upside and we get a violation of this area and prices trade below, say, 18,000 on NAS100, an area like this, we could see prices move to the downside as well. So you have to take you have to give your buyers, say, two possibilities, either to the upside or to the downside. And it's the same thing with the S&P 500. If price doesn't go to the upside, so you get this difficulty here, you wait for this break and then you take prices to the downside as well. Alright, so let's look at US oil real quick. So with US oil, it's quite interesting because we have prices at a psychological number of, say, 80. So price is right here at 80, and then we have a rejection already at this point. So when you look at it from the daily time frame, it's quite difficult for you to tell what's actually happening on US oil. But let's focus on this recent price action right here. Or let's say we focus on this recent price action, which is price moving to the upside. So we've had prices moving to the upside, say from 75, the psychological number, all the way to 80. So when we step down to lower time frames, let's go say like the 4-hour time frame real quick. This piece of price action is what's most important to me. And if you just put your trend line in at this point, so we have prices again moving to the upside, giving us these highs, and then we have a pullback and prices. So if prices pull back to this area and then it finds it difficult to go to the upside, once we get a drop like this, I'll be expecting prices to pull back to areas like 80, and then we'll look for selling opportunities. So again, look at the DXY. When you have those buys coming in on the DXY, we're looking for sells on US oil. Now, if the sales come in on the DXY, like so, if we get these sales on the DXY, which was this other option right here, then you look at, say, another opportunity on oil. So you could have prices move like here, and then you get a move to the upside. So it just depends on what's happening on the DXY. So you need to watch the DXY carefully, and depending on what's happening on the DXY, you have to then act accordingly on other pairs. So it's quite simple, but there's a lot of opportunities coming in for next week. All right, let's look at silver, and this is the last pair we're looking at for today. So when you look at silver on the daily time frame, pay attention to the psychological number we have here. So we have 23 flat, like right here, 23 flat. So we had prices move from 22 all the way to 23, and it was difficult for prices to rally all the way to 24. So we had prices pull back inside, so between 23 and 22, and we've had prices testing 23 again. So let's look at lower time frames and see the options that we have or the opportunities that might be setting up. So with what's happening on silver, I'm very much inclined to go with the sells on silver, but we need to see certain things happening on this pair. So if we anticipate that sales are going to come in, right now we have the psychological number right here, and we have this price action, which is like an uptrend that is building at this point. So all I'm waiting for is for this to get validated. So you have prices trade to an area like this, it finds it difficult to go to the upside, and then you get a move to the downside, you get a pullback, a test of this area, then you get a move to the downside. Watch out for areas like this, maybe to take partials or to close the trade completely. But eventually, if the DXY again goes to the upside, I'll be very much interested on a pair like silver to take these selling opportunities. And if the DXY decides to go to the downside, what I'll be looking for, if the DXY drops to the downside, then I want to see silver get to an area like this and actually respect this trend that is building up, and then they move now to the upside. So it's a lot of opportunities coming up next week. All you have to do is watch the DXY, watch it closely, watch everything that is building up technically, and then when the DXY shows you a direction it's deciding to move towards, then you look at other currency pairs that are said negatively correlated, you take the opposite direction to that, and you look at pairs which are positively correlated to the DXY, and then you take trading opportunities in that same direction. All right, so that's it for this week. And if you like this, if you found this interesting, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button, and as usual, check these other videos to follow along. All right guys, see you during the next one. Bye for now.